Hello and welcome back to Gapeys Garden. Today we're going to be doing our annual cherry tomato tour. So we've got 9 different varieties this year. 3 of those are micro dwarf varieties. We're going to go through and take a look at each plant, and I'll give you some of my thoughts on each one, and we'll also give each one a taste. Every year I usually have a few tomatoes that turn out to be not what they're supposed to be, but I had pretty good luck with the cherry tomatoes this year, so everything looks like it should. I did have one of my paste tomato varieties that turned out to be not what it was supposed to be, but that's actually pretty good compared to previous years. So let's go take a look at the cherry tomatoes. We're going to start here with the micro dwarf varieties. This one here is the Mini Marzano, and it came from Wild Boar Farms. And these were actually, I think, supposed to be a little bit more red, but these came out more kind of a dark orange. And I don't know. I'm not sure if that's exactly what they're supposed to look like or not, but we're going to go ahead and give this one a try. It is definitely a dwarf. Doesn't really have a whole lot of tomatoes on it. I have this little stick here holding it up because it was falling over, but it looks to be a determinate variety because it doesn't really seem to be putting out many new tomatoes. It does have a few over here, but I haven't seen any new branches come out of there. All right, here we got the Mini Marzano. Let's give it a bite. Has a pretty good flavor. Lots of seeds in there, which is kind of unexpected for a paste tomato. Usually those don't have too many seeds. But it does have nice acidity. I really like the flavor of that one. Oh, it also does have a little bit of a thicker skin, which is good for being crack resistant. So if that's something that you have a problem with, that might work out. But I don't know if I'll grow that one again. Even though it tastes good, it's really not very productive, which I would prefer something a little more productive. This one here is also from Wild Boar Farms. This one is called Golden Hour, and it is a much taller plant than the Mini Marzano over there. But this one does seem to be more indeterminate in growth. You can see there's a lot of new flowers and branches coming out the top there. But here is our first cluster of tomatoes. It's a really pretty variety. Pick one here. It's kind of a plum shape. It's like a kind of a light yellowish orange color and has a lot of purple blushing on it. So it's a really pretty tomato. It has a lot more texture, kind of crunchy. There's a lot of seeds in this one as well, probably more so than the Marzano. There's actually a pretty big cavity on the inside of the tomato. I think I prefer the flavor of the Mini Marzano, but it's not bad. I do enjoy growing different varieties of tomatoes every year, and I'm not sure that one will make the cut for growing again. And here is a variety called Gigi's Glory, and this one came from Twine and Trellis on Instagram, and I believe this is her variety, and it's a brand new variety, I believe, that just came out this year, but it puts out some yellow cherry tomatoes, and it is kind of short compared to the Golden Hour, but it does have a lot of fruits on it, and some of the fruits are kind of buried in there, but there is probably more fruits on this one than any of the other micro dwarfs. This one is also kind of falling over, so it really should be, I should probably stake these, but I think it should be kind of up a little bit higher, but it is very productive, so we're going to go ahead and taste this one. Here we go with Gigi's Glory. It has a little bit of a different tomato flavor, maybe a little bit more fruity, slightly less acidic. It has a really good flavor. I think I prefer it to the other 2 micro tomatoes that I tried. I would definitely consider growing that one again. I don't grow a whole lot of micro dwarf tomatoes, so this is kind of something new that I tried this year, but I think I'd grow that one again. The rest of the tomatoes are here in Texas tomato cages, so they're a really sturdy tomato cage that folds up and is easy to store. So we've been using these for several years, and you can stack them and make them as high as you want. So I've got these about 5 feet tall, and there are 2 pieces to the ones that I have set up here. So the first one we're going to look at over here is called Tidy Treats, and it's more of a dwarf variety. It only got about 3 feet tall, and it's more of a currant type tomato. You can see how tiny these tomatoes are. So it's a lot smaller than I was expecting. Because these Tidy Treats are so tiny, I'm gonna eat 2 of them. They're a little bit sweeter than I expected, but I'm not really a fan of the really tiny currant type tomatoes. So, and also this one doesn't get very big, so I think I'm probably not gonna grow that one again, but it was fun to try this year. The last cherry tomato to ripen was this red pear tomato, but it's also the largest tomato, so it's well above the tomato cage, and it's actually sprawling way over here above the Tidy Treats tomato. You can see how long that branch is, so I'm gonna have to probably cut that back here pretty soon. But it is pretty loaded with fruits, mostly unripe, but we've got quite a few ripe ones coming in as well, so we're gonna go ahead and taste one of these. I'm not sure if I mentioned it, but I don't think I've grown red pear tomato in probably 10 years. So it's been a really long time, and I can't remember exactly if I really like this flavor of this one or not, so we're gonna give it a try. The flavor isn't really that spectacular, and the texture is a little bit mealy compared to the other tomatoes I've tried so far. I think there's probably other pear varieties that I like a lot more. I'm not sure I'll grow this one again. Next up, we have a variety called Pauline's Secret. I believe I got this one from a rare tomato seed swap, but we've got quite a few fruits on this one, not a whole lot ripe, and it does look like this one might be kind of prone to splitting as well. But this one, it has a really kind of interesting color, and it's got some nice trellises of fruit on it. I did get Pauline's Secret from Rhiannon's Garden on Instagram in a seed swap, and almost everything that I'm growing this year came from seed swaps, unless I mentioned. So I think Wild Boar Farms tomatoes are the only ones I bought this year, and the rest came from seed swaps. I don't like the texture of the skin on this one. It seems a little more tough and chewy. The flavor isn't that sweet. I don't think I'd grow this one again. Now this one here is my absolute favorite cherry tomato that I just have to grow every single year. This is the Berries Crazy Cherry, and it is just loaded with fruits. It's also an early one to ripen, and it's by far the most productive cherry tomato, and it is one of the tastiest as well. It's a really beautiful variety and super sweet. This one is a variety by, I believe Wild Boar Farms has this variety, but I've been saving seeds from this one for several years and have to have it. I already mentioned that Berries Crazy Cherry is my favorite tomato, so I already know I'm gonna enjoy this one. I've probably been growing it for, I don't know, the past 6 years. Oh yeah, by far the best. Super juicy. I haven't noticed any cracking on this one. Sometimes it'll crack if after harvesting if the stem comes off, but for the most part it doesn't crack too much. The taste is so worth it, and because it's so productive and so pretty, I just can't not grow it. Now over here we have a variety called Tigerella, and it was another one that was pretty late to ripen. It has really pretty fruits on it, so we've got a little bit of striping when it's green, and the striping kind of goes away a little bit, but it's still somewhat stripy. The stripes turn more kind of a light orange color, and this one actually looks like it's split. And also this is the largest cherry tomato that I have, and it may not even be considered, drop that one. It might not even be considered a cherry tomato because it's so large, but I have it over here with my other cherry tomatoes, so I figure I might as well cover it. But this is the first time I've grown this one, and it's a really neat variety. Unfortunately, it looks like it's prone to splitting. Now, we did have some rain over the last couple days, so that has probably contributed to some splitting. Here's the big Tigerella that we harvested, and I just harvested this smaller one for the tasting. So as you can see, there's some pretty inconsistent sized tomatoes on this one. It's probably the juiciest of the tomatoes that I've tried. The flavor isn't that great. It's not very sweet. It's a pretty tomato, but I'm not sure I'd grow this one again. This variety is called Gardener's Sweetheart and is the first time I've grown this one, but it gets these really long trellises of tomatoes. So this trellis is really long. So this is all one trellis of tomatoes, and it's a very bright red color, and I think these store pretty well because they have some pretty thick skin. So they'll stay on the vine without splitting, I think, because the skin is so thick for a pretty long time, and I'm sure it stores pretty well after you harvest as well. All right, Gardener's Sweetheart. It has a lot better flavor than I was expecting. It does have the really super thick skin, which makes it more crack resistant, so that's a good thing. But yeah, really good flavor. This is one of the few varieties that I'm growing this year that I would definitely grow again. Now the last one we have here is called Tim's Taste of Paradise, and it is another one from Wild Boar Farms. It's a brand new release this year, but I've heard some not so great things about the taste. It was supposed to be a really sweet tomato that kind of compared to Sun Gold, or could be a replacement for Sun Gold. So we're gonna taste that one, and I'll let you know what my thoughts are. But it does seem to have, I don't know, it seems to be a more leafy tomato than some of the other varieties. So I probably should give it some pruning back a little bit. But I have been trying to keep back the suckers, but we've got one here that I should probably remove. But it does seem to be growing pretty well and is well above the tomato cage. If the stem comes off it, I do notice that it does tend to crack very easily after the stem is removed. Is it as good as Sun Gold? Definitely not. I'm not a huge fan of this one. So this tomato was really overhyped, I think, when it first came out, and everybody was flocking to get it. And as far as I know, everybody that I've heard of that has tried it has not really been very impressed. So that is unfortunate. But that's it for the cherry tomato tour for 2023. I hope you got some ideas on cherry tomatoes to grow next season or to not grow. But definitely my top 2 cherry tomatoes this year are Barry's Crazy Cherry, which will always have a place in my garden, and the Gardener's Sweetheart, which I will definitely grow again. Maybe not every year, but definitely more years than not. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like and subscribe if you haven't already. Thanks for watching, and we'll talk to you again soon. If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe. You can also find me on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook.